go. It should ask you. Uh,
Okay. Hello, Irene. Uh, this is Claudia Gargiulo. I am from Argentina, but live here in United States since 2002. And my profession, I am a teacher in Montgomery County Public Schools. I teach AP, so Advanced Placement Literature, Spanish literature, and means from Latin America and from Spain. And also, I am a Latinx Achievement Coordinator in my school. And on the side, over the weekend, I sing in a couple of groups. I lead two groups, one group of tango and another group of Latin American music. So that's my activity uh, in that keeps me very busy.
oh, okay, okay, very nice. Um, so you already started with what you do. Um, we're gonna focus, I think, first on the tango, and then maybe on the Spanish literature.
Yeah.
So first, oh, so where do you perform with your groups? Um,
So I have two regular performance a month with the is a quintet, is a chamber orchestra that has violin, piano, bandoneon, and voice, and what else? Double bass, acoustic bass. And we perform in Glen Echo Park in Maryland once a month. For is an event where people comes for dancing in those ballrooms that from Glen Echo. We play and people go dance in tango. And the other event is in Silver Spring in a restaurant. Same stuff. We give. I usually have somebody that a professional teacher that gives a lesson for beginners or medium, advanced, or whatever level they serve. And it's 1 hour before the show, and then we play live music with the quintet, and people dance with us.
okay, very
So
nice.
twice, but eventually, for instance, this summer we were invited, and we had a contract with Fairfax County, and we performed for the summer series in the on the streets and mosaic in Fairfax, or in Friendship Heights, which is another neighborhood in Maryland that. Has a community center, so they pay us, but we perform for free for it to the people. And we usually do some comments about tango history or Argentinian history or the lyrics. So it's kind of informative as well. It's not a dancing activity or event, but we bring dancers so people can enjoy the dance of tango as well as the music.
Okay, very
Mhm.
nice. That sounds amazing. How long have you been like? I guess since you have two groups, how long have you been with one and the other, and how did you start performing?
Okay. Well, there is a life before I came here, more than 20 years ago. I started performing when I was 17. I was in high school. And I I did an audition for a show, and I won the audition. I started performing professionally in a theater ever since. So more or less, I have done something every year. And there were times in my life that I was very busy working and raising my kids, but I never stopped singing. And for many years of my life, it was my main activity. So back in Argentina, I was a part of the professional opera chorus in my town and in my city. And then I was paid for singing at the chorus and at the theater. And then I gave private lessons, and I had my own groups. So I was performing before I came here. And I also had a group in Italy over the 90s. I used to go back and forth to Italy, especially over the summer, to perform with that group and tour around Italy. That's why now I speak Italian because of all this exposure. Um, in spite of my last name is Italian, but um, my uh, bisnono, how do you say that? My grand grandfather was Italian, and we lost the language in the way in Argentina. But I learned Italian by working there, and and then I came here, and I came here just to perform in a show in South Carolina, and I came to visit Washington, and somebody told me that the Gala Theater, which is the Latin theater, had an audition, and I went to the audition. I asked my brother to drive me there because you know, and I just sang a cappella song, and I came back to Argentina, and I received a phone call from Gala saying that I won the audition, so I had to come back. And then when I came back in 2001, somebody offered papers as sponsor me for a artist visa. So I stay in the United States under the status of an artist, where I have to perform. I couldn't do any other job but performing, teaching voice or things like that. So I got my visa that way. Um, and ever since, I was singing and performing. And then immediately after I moved here in 2002, I started going be, belonging or being part of a tango group that they already exist, that at that time was called Champagne Tango. Well, we had a bandoneon, almost the same formation as a quintet. We have one bandoneon, piano, violin, double bass, and they hired me as the lead singer. And but the group was moving around the years, and people were leaving and people were staying, and ta. So we moved from like 2 or 3 other names until we are now. I am the oldest member of the group right now. The from that time, people that have changed but evolved, you know. And we our group now is called Tango Reo, and we changed name a couple of times. As I said, we changed members and repertoire, and yeah, we have been improving. I say it's in a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How did you have a group in Italy? Did you like contact each other overseas, or did you go there first and then like speak with them there?
Yeah, that the same of here. When as a musician or as an artist, when I visit Italy once, but I went with a bunch of phone numbers of people that I didn't know, but I were given those numbers from a friend of a friend that was an artist and this and that. So as soon as you get there, and I did the same in United States. I as soon as I got there to the new city, I start calling, and that way I met people, and then they gave me the opportunity of singing, or and then I was invited to some projects. So I was lucky too, because the first time that I went to Italy, it was with a boyfriend that was a director of theater and a playwright. So he had already an ambience of artists. And he had this group of musicians that sometimes performed for his plays, you know when a play need music, there were those musicians, and one was from Argentina. So I met them, and we start playing, and we create a repertoire, and then we were hired for a Latin American festival every summer for like 5 consecutive years. So it was a big festival, and we have to play almost every night, representing Argentina. It was one tent, no, big tents, with restaurants, and each tent represent a different country. And I was in the tent of Argentina, and they had a restaurant there and a stage where I was performing. And also they had a main stage for the festival with major figures like Gilberto Gil from Brazil, or uh, let me I think it was Jose Feliciano came once. It was the time, I am talking about the 90s. So the Cuban group of Buena Vista Social Club, that was selling a lot of CDs at that time for the movie that Ray Cooder made. Well, they were there, and I had the opportunity of seeing them. So I saw Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil. I saw people from all over, and very major figures in that main stage. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I know that you've been saying a lot about like you get into contact with people like with the Gala Theater, and when you went to Italy by calling. Do people ever try to get into contact with you, either to perform or to perform with you? And if so, how?
Okay, well, the people, after 20 years that I am living in this area, people, musicians know me, or so sometimes I receive calls for singing here or there, or. But for tell you the truth, musicians have a much easier life, because musicians can change genre. A guitar player, a bass player can change genre, and perform in different groups, have a diversity. But singers, not that much. So I mean, I have a very eclectic repertoire, I have to tell you. But Once in a while, I am called for doing something, but usually I have to create the event, and I need to push that. It's more like more times that I create the events than the people call me. The work of a musician, an instrumental the musician, yeah, I guess it's easier. They get calls more often, but I am happy because recently, a conductor of a big band is called James Basin. He has a big band, and he called me recently this year to record a CD with his big band. It was 13 people in the lines of brass. So 13 people in a studio, only the brass. Then is the piano, the guitar, the bass, the drums, everybody. It was huge. I never played with so many people. And we recorded, and now we are going to do the the CD release in Virginia in a restaurant club called La Portas on October 25th, and I will sing jazz standards. I would sing a bossa nova in Portuguese and some jazz standards in English, which is completely out of my comfort zone, I would say. I am more a Latin singer. And then we will play in Blues Alley. So I'm so happy that I am exploring a new genres, and as I said, but it's not uh, common. Usually, I promote my repertoire and I create the event, and I have to go and talk with the owner of the theater or the community center, or with the mm, um, the office from the government that promotes the summer series or celebrations, Hispanic Heritage Month, or things like that. So it's a work of production as well, not only musical, but also I have to go out and offer the group.
Well, speaking of like the genres, know specifically your tango singing because you perform it a lot in different places and we get to see it. So could I have you explain what is tango and how does it relate to Argentina?
Okay, well, yeah, sure. Tango was born in Argentina at the end of 19th century, so in the 1900s. Yeah, I not the 1800s. Sorry, 19th centuries, 1800s, and it was created by the mix of immigrants that came to Argentina, to the harbor, to the main city in Buenos Aires to work. And they were promised that so we had a big land in Argentina, unpopulated at that time, and it was the government offering work. Especially many people came from Europe, from Italy, from Spain, Poland, Russia, Germany, and they were they were coming from Latin America as well, but mostly from those countries in Europe, and they were too focused of receiving this huge wave of immigration from Europe. It was Staten Island in New York, and Buenos Aires. Sometimes Rio as well, but we received huge amount of immigration uh, during that time. So especially men coming along in those ships and living in communal houses. So it was big houses with an internal patio with many rooms to rental rooms where it will be living one man or the entire family, in those little rooms. And they they meet in the patio, and they didn't have a common language. So it was a Polish guy, there was a German guy using this instrument called bandoneon. That is not an accordion, is similar, but it's not. So that came from Germany, that instrument. Or some other that pick up the violin and or the guitar, and they start playing. They were not able to speak with each other mostly, but the music, you know, and in that conjugation of mixture of people, tango was born, and tango was born in both ways: the musical and the dancing. So some people were dancing with that, and it was very close embrace. So something a little provoke some scandal for the society, very conservative society from the beginning of 20th century in Argentina, very Catholic, very conservative. So from it was kind of a rejected the tango like a lower class, rejected for close embrace and being promiscuous. But even because they also practice that or perform that in the prostíbulos where the men were going, to see women, because there were so many men alone. Uh, but immediately after, it became very famous. Um, Not even coming to the 20s, the 1920s, it was super famous, the tango, because some artists went to Paris. They were, very successful in Paris, and everything that they had success in Paris had success everywhere, you know. So the same happened with jazz, by the way. Jazz was under in the United States was socially and racially segregated. And when they became famous outside the United States, then the people start appreciating other people than blacks, start appreciating that kind of music that now is iconic from United States. If you think jazz, the origin is United States, but it was rejected from the beginning. The same in Spain. Spain, when you think about Spain, which music do you think?
Flamenco.
Flamenco. And flamenco comes from the gypsies. They were not the mainstream social class or mainstream people. It was segregated people. It was, lower class people. And that music, Django Reinhardt in France, or gypsy music of flamenco in Spain, comes from very low class, very, unaccepted origins, and with the time became the iconic music that you relate the whole culture in that music or that manifestation of art. I got lost with the question.
Nah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Claudia.
Yeah.
Then you also said that you do other Latin American music. How do you only do Argentine culture music, or you do from all over Latin America?
No, I do all over Latin America. I had a trio or sometimes more people, depends on the pay. We put more people, but we have a base of two people, the guitar player and me, and then we add percussion and bass and piano. But we had this repertoire that is a tour for all Latin America. We have songs from Cuba and from the folk of Venezuela and Colombia and Uruguay and Paraguay and Brazil, Chile, you name it, Argentina as well, Bolivia, Central America. We have some uh, Central American with Black origins, or Central American with more European influences. So we have a very broad range of music from Latin America, and very old as well. You know, some music is from the same time of tango origins, or boleros and cha-cha and rumbas are all those rhythms that I mentioned. All the music from Latin America has at least three influences. The all music of Latin America has a strong root in Africa, because many people were brought during the colonial times by Spaniards. They bought slaves from Africa to work in Brazil, in Argentina, everywhere. And they left their music and the tambours, all the percussion and the rhythms, So all the rhythms, Latin American rhythms that I mentioned, had a root in Africa. So rumba, cha-cha, salsa, merengue, you name it, bomba, everything, including folk music from Argentina like chacarera, takata, 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 takata. That's a bass rhythm from Africa. And 6/8, or other rhythms. Also, there are influences from Europe, like waltzes, right? And ballads are including tango has some influences in the south of Spain, and also from habanera, which is a Cuban rhythm. So in general, music has African, European, and indigenous music. So if you go to Peru, Bolivia, north of Argentina, north of Chile, there are all a region of Incas that has the same pentatonic scale, like originally pre-Columbian indigenous were using. So pentatonic means 5 notes in the scale that they use. The Occidental music that we are used to in all Occident, European, American, has 8 notes. Pentatonical is only 5 notes, and is more related to Asia, like China, But the instruments as well. There are influences of the instruments from indigenous, especially the blowing instruments, like ocarinas, flutes, and all this stuff that are indigenous. Mm-hmm. In Paraguay, Uruguay has enormous influence in indigenous from the Guarani culture that is very strong. You know, the Guarani is a language, is a culture, is a rhythm, I mean, it has a rhythm, authentic rhythms from the region. So, hmm.
Thank you. Let's see. We are kind of over time, but I wanted to have two more questions. First, I wanted to ask,
Okay.
what was your favorite performance? Or maybe not performance, I guess, what's your favorite genre to sing?
Okay. No, but depends on the magics of the song, actually. I I love Brazilian music. It's one of my favorites. And I love jazz, and I love Argentinian music as well, but there are some songs that really uh, are gorgeous to sing. However, I love classical music. Um, mm, After my experience of being in an opera choir and singing all those operas, you know, the um I love music because I cannot separate in genres, or I just enjoy music. However, one of my best experiences singing with the groups, it was um, with the Pan American Symphonic Orchestra that is located here in Washington, D.C. They perform now at the Kennedy Center as a regular basis. But back in the time when I was part of or for a few years, I performed with them. We were performing at the Listener Auditorium in University of George, the what's the name of it in Georgetown?
Georgetown?
Uh, it's not the University of Georgetown, but it's George Washington University. I don't know, but it's um, the Listener Auditorium. I need to check in internet which is the university that belongs to the that auditorium. But it was so beautiful to sing with an orchestra. Um, you know, my voice and 20 other musicians in the back is really a something. It's really special. And I love that.
I looked up Listener Auditorium. It looks like George Washington University.
Yeah, it's George Washington. Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's close to Georgetown, anyways.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and actually, I think you kind of answered this last question. I was going to ask if there is a difference in how or what you perform based on location or your audience, but obviously it's based on, I guess, the band that you're working with and the goal of the event. Is there
Uh-huh.
any other way that you want to
Well,
adjust?
I try to make it interested. If I can add a couple of dancers, I do that. If I can make comments, usually when people are dancing, you cannot talk. Okay, the people hate that, to be listening to me and not dancing. So if the event is for dancers, I privilege dancers and good rhythms for dancers, and I just give them the the events. I give the events for them. But if it's a show in a theater, I talk and I like to comment. Many people don't speak Spanish, don't understand the lyrics, and some of the lyrics are. I mean, Argentina. Going back to tango, right? But for any music, the lyrics are relevant. So the singer, the work of singer is narrating a story. And this is in conjugation with the music. So it's an art. So, how do you make some words or some concept or some emotions more relevant than others? How do you emphasize in one thing and not another? So, um, lyrics are important, and I like to make comments about what I am saying. So when people listen and they don't understand Spanish or Brazilian or whatever language I am singing, they can relate to the music or have, well, the music, the melody gives you an idea anyways. So it's not that you will not get the song if you don't understand the lyrics, but it's also nice to have also the lyrics, so you have more, other than the feelings that music makes you feel. You have the poetry as well, which is another level of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Claudia. I really appreciate you taking the time to let me interview you, especially after the busy day.
Yeah, thank you so much for thinking of me and making so interesting questions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop the recording here.
Okay.
Uh,